Hey guys, hope you're well. I'm about 16 hours into a 22-hour journey, so I am a little bit tired, so forgive me if I'm a little bit slower than usual. This is a video that I've actually been wanting to record for a long time now on how to escape the matrix. And this is basically like a formula that I've kind of come up with and that I feel that I'm qualified to be able to speak on due to kind of my life setup and life structure. And I've kind of turned this into a set of rules and principles that I think anyone would be able to follow to achieve true freedom, financial freedom in their lives. So I guess first off, what do I consider to be, like, what is the matrix in my own opinion? So I think the matrix is a really good term for the rat race, and basically you need to unplug from the system, and the way to do that is by buying back your life, by no longer exchanging your time for money. You need to escape that system to buy back your freedom. And so basically I would consider you to have escaped the matrix once you are passively earning more money than your monthly expenditure. So basically what that means is through investing or through passive income sources, you want to be earning more money than you spend every single month, because then it puts you in a really, really strong position of, for one, you're no longer exchanging your time for money. Or if you are doing so, it's not because of the necessity of needing to earn more money to pay your bills. You're doing it by choice, which puts you in a very, very strong position compared to everyone else. The other reason that I think the term the matrix is really, really quite good is because once you have achieved financial freedom in this way that I'm talking about, you really do feel like you're kind of on the outside looking in at the rest of the world who are, and I don't mean this in like a derogatory or offensive way, but essentially slaves to money. But you just simply have the illusion of freedom. The people who are stuck, not even just in the 9-to-5s, but are stuck in the idea of, I need to work this many hours in order to earn this much money to pay my bills and to survive. That is what I consider to be plugged into the matrix, and it really looks like I'm on the outside kind of looking in at these people, and it just seems so kind of far away, so distant from my reality. And again, it's not, I'm not saying this as like I'm better than you or better than these people. Like I'm saying it because I've kind of been there. Like my first job was in a factory cleaning up the floors. Like I was the lowest person in the factory. It was like a furniture manufacturing business, and I was the apprentice there. So the lowest person, my job was to basically carry bits of wood to and from a van, and I was earning about £1,000 a month. I would wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and now to kind of compare my life where I literally live anywhere that I want to. Last year I was living in Bali, I was living in Kuala Lumpur, I lived in Dubai, I spent time in Switzerland, in Morocco, literally just kind of going around doing whatever I want. I tripled my net worth last year doing less work than I've ever done. Like, again, not even to show off, but like in a first class flight going off to have my kind of next adventure in a $70,000 watch, compared to where I was, 7 or 8 years ago. This is like beyond what I would have even imagined, to be completely honest. So again, and like I've literally just got back from skiing in Courchevel last week, which is one of the most like luxury ski destinations in Europe, if not the world. So and I'm not telling you this, by the way, to show off. I work quite a lot on kind of killing my ego and not looking for approval or seeking approval from other people. It's just to kind of tell you that I've got the receipts. I'm not like an armchair expert. Like I'm really kind of living this life and have really achieved this this level of freedom, which is why I feel that I'm qualified to kind of talk and share with you how I did it, so that you can learn from my mistakes and hopefully do it a lot faster than I did. So to start off with, like, just going through my notes, there's basically a million different ways to achieve success. This isn't the only way to do it. This is just the way that I did it and what I would do differently, and it's the only thing that I'm qualified to speak on is my own experiences. So don't take this for being the only way to do it. This is just the way that worked for me. So also, my success wasn't overnight. It was basically through steady and consistent action. And this video is basically going off my experience, but now also with the benefit of hindsight, what I would do differently. So my first million took me about 4 years to make, and the next million took less than a year. And so the first million is like the hardest one to make, in my opinion. So the best way to get there, like, what are we going to be solving in this video? The way to do it is to free up as much money as possible, invest that money, and have that money working for you. That is why that is how you are going to achieve freedom in your life, financial freedom. But with financial freedom also comes time freedom, because you're able to buy back your time, and also comes location freedom, because you're able to live wherever you choose to, and that is all part of financial freedom. So how to actually achieve financial freedom, we're going to attack this from multiple different angles at the same time, on how to make your first million. But the same logic, by the way, also applies up to like your first kind of 10 million, and then maybe you would change the setup somewhat. The reason I think that 1 million is quite a good goal, I mean, well, for one, when you actually get there, you're going to realize actually $1 million isn't a lot of money. You know, for our parents, maybe, like for my parents when they were growing up, $1 million was a lot of money, but like due to inflation, I mean, you can't even buy a house in many major cities. You can't even buy an apartment, like a 2-bedroom apartment. You won't get very much for $1 million. In most cities, it will get you like an apartment and maybe a car, like a nice car, but like it's really not like super rich. You're comfortable, let's say. It puts you in like the comfortable bracket. But it is definitely like a first good milestone to kind of to target. And the point of this of having this is basically, once you have your first million, let's say like you can achieve a 10 to 15% return per year off of the S&P 500, which for the past couple of years has actually been more like 20 to 30% year over year. Or you could look at more risky assets. I prefer to go for the more risky assets of things like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana, not meme coins, but just keeping on like, you know, top 10 cryptos. But I'm very much like a Bitcoin maxi. So looking at taking position or making investments in those type of investments which have been yielding like a 40% return historically. So let's say that you had $1 million invested in Bitcoin, you would be generating about 400k per year passively. It's not going to be that every year. Some years it's going to be lower, and other years it's going to be much higher. But if you kind of average it out over a 10-year period or over a 5-year period, you're averaging about 40% year over year compounded returns. And for any of you who haven't done this, you can go into a compound interest calculator and you'll be pretty mind blown at how easy it is to make money when you have compound interest working in your favor. So it doesn't even need to be 40% per year. It can be 10 to 15% per year that you are investing and having that money working for you. So if you had $1 million invested and you were getting 10 to 15% returns per year, that would be 150k per year getting put in your pocket. It's $13,000 per month being put in your pocket passively for doing nothing. So if your expenses are 5 to 10k per month, you have then achieved financial freedom. Essentially, you have achieved freedom in your life. But really, I think the goal for everyone should be to aim to get to about 10 million, and then you have that money working for you, again using these same things that I'm talking about now, but this is the vehicle of how we're going to get there. And with 10 million you could look at doing very conservative investing, or of achieving maybe 8 to 12% returns per year, which would be $800,000 to $1.2 million passively, and I really do mean passively per year. This it wouldn't be an active investing strategy. You would be passively getting $80,000 into your bank every month that you can then choose to live off and spend, and that is how you achieve financial freedom. So that is kind of just to kind of outline the goal of what this video is about working towards, and why it makes complete sense to do that. But basically you want to stop selling your time for money as quickly as possible. This is actually a concept, like I'm not the first person to come out of this, by the way. It's called FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early, which basically means to like save money until you can passively live off of your until you can live off of your passive income, sorry. There's a lot of books on it. I've read about or listened to about 3 or 4 different books on it. The thing that I don't like about it, though, is it's about living a very kind of frugal life. It's not about living like a high life. They're looking at saving like $1 million or even less than that in a lot of cases, and just kind of how can they live a very cheap life but get by without trading their time for money. Whereas I'm trying to approach this from, I don't want to feel that I'm restricted at all. I want to be living the highest quality of life, flying first class, flying private, spending time in the places that I want to spend time in, not feeling restricted at all about what hotels I can stay at. I like nice things, basically. I live quite a minimal now. I choose to live quite minimal, but everything that I do own is of the highest quality and will generally be expensive. So I want to approach this from, how can I earn enough money to live a luxury passive lifestyle where I'm not restricted for anything. So I've broken it down into 4 steps, and we're going to go through each of these one at a time, and these are in the order that I believe that you should complete these actions. So step number 1 is fixing your mindset. Step number 2 is running a cash flow business. Step number 3 is reducing your expenses as much as possible. And step number 4 is investing 80% of everything that you earn. I don't like to come across like a guru. I haven't figured out everything in life, love, the meaning of life. I spend a lot of time, now that I've bought back all of my time, I now perhaps have too much time and spend a lot of it pondering, like, what is the meaning, what is the purpose of me being here? What am I supposed to achieve with my life? So I haven't got it all figured out, but this side of things, I believe I have figured out a lot more than most people, and my life would kind of be evidence to that. So the first step is kind of fixing your mindset. So this, again, is kind of personal to you. I think it depends on where you grew up, but I grew up without money, very much in like I wouldn't say we were poor. We weren't really worrying about where the next meal was coming from. But my parents didn't have money, as in like disposable income at all. They had one property that they bought when they were much younger, and they basically, for all of their lives, have put all of their money into paying off the mortgage on this property throughout my whole childhood. And so everything, it was kind of okay. There were times when there was a recession in the UK. I remember my parents were worried about money, and they would often tell me that like they haven't got money for this. But by no means did I have like the worst childhood ever, in terms of like from a financial point of view. My childhood was a bit strange in a different way, because I was adopted, and I was a very difficult child, but I will go into all of that in a different video. I have spoken about this before, but anyway, I basically didn't grow up around money. So, and even now, like when I kind of talk to my parents, I think a lot of things that I tell them, they are kind of like insane. But for example, like even if we did go on holiday, maybe we would go to Spain or something, and my father would see like a yacht. He would say, "Oh, that's like drug dealers' money, or like they're arms dealers' money. Like they're criminals. They're not honest people." Whereas, for all he knows, it's just a very successful businessman. And in most cases, it probably is. So there was always this kind of that, oh, if you want to get very rich, like you kind of cheat the system, and that was the kind of mentality that I grew up with, and the kind of rich people were bad in a way, and I can tell you that definitely isn't the case. I now much prefer to hang out with rich people. Like all my friends have all have money in most cases, unless I've known them from childhood, because generally they're smarter people to hang around with. Like the point kind of here is to understand that there is a lot of money in the world. There are people making tons of money, and I mean millions per month, tens of millions per month, like hundreds of thousands per month. These numbers that seem kind of insane, there's people out there that are not different from you that are making these types of making these amounts of money. So kind of understanding that, like, or at least me believing there's no reason that I wasn't able to do that, and like if they can do it, why can't I, was quite a big shift for me in my mindset. Another big thing for me that I didn't do, but I wish I did continue to do. Now I spend a lot of time learning. I spend most of my time now listening to audiobooks. I left school without any qualifications when I was 15. I just didn't write anything in my exams because I was very rebellious. That was a very stupid thing to do, but anyway, the school system kind of actually turned me off of education, and I thought that I didn't like to learn, and actually that wasn't the case at all. I just didn't like to learn the things that were being taught in school. So when I was like finally 22 or 23, I decided to pick up a book again on psychology, on business, and I read The 4-Hour Work Week. And this again kind of reignited my passion and my love for learning from other people's skills and experience. Now, however you choose to do that, whether it's through books, through audiobooks, through podcasts, through YouTube, through TikTok, even, like you can, we live in like such a abundance of education that is completely free, and yet so many people are just kind of poisoning their minds with TikTok content, like mindlessly scrolling reels with like pointless crap. Whereas instead, take control of your education. There was a great quote actually that I read that I think it was Jimmy Carr, the British comedian, said, "Anyone with any type of education has educated themselves." And I think that is actually really, really true. So continue your education. Take control of your education. Choose different subjects that you're interested in, be it psychology, productivity, personal finance, investing. There's about 60 or 70 kind of subtopics that I am very interested in, that I basically research and educate myself on. The next one is to take ownership of your life. So this actually happened to me basically because I hit rock bottom, because I would have been 21 years old, and I was dating a model from Lithuania that I was very much in love with, and I didn't have any money at this time. I was just a younger but better looking man. And anyway, she left me for a guy in Dubai who had just sold his company for $500 million. And I was earning about $2,000 a month, working in recruitment. And like I see in her story, like she's in a Lamborghini and he's got like an AP, and I just knew I had no way of competing. I wouldn't have picked me, and that is like really a point of hitting rock bottom, and it was a big kind of motivation for me. And then I also saw a video of this guy on YouTube called Lost LeBlanc, who was like a French guy traveling around Thailand and Bali with his like model girlfriend. And I'm just thinking, how is this prick, like, how is he, like, not that he did anything wrong, I was just angry, I was kind of jealous of, like, how is this guy, how am I stuck in a 9 to 5 in some shitty office, and this guy is out like traveling the world and getting paid for it. Like, why not me? And so again, it was by hitting like rock bottom, and I was quite depressed at that point, to be honest. Genuinely depressed, like pissed off at my own life, and that I just kind of had to do something about it. So that is again another kind of long story, but I basically realized no one cares about me. I am the only person who cares about me, and I have to make something of my own life. It is me who has to take ownership and responsibility of my life. So maybe something bad does have to happen to you in order for you to have that realization. I hope it doesn't, and you can just kind of learn that from this video, or maybe you're doing so already. But you need to take control and ownership of your life. Otherwise, you aren't the boss, and life is just happening to you. And no one is ever gonna give you your dreams on a plate. You have to go out there and build them and make them happen. Another kind of other note, I mean, this doesn't, I guess it just kind of applies to my mentality more now, but at least for me, I don't find happiness through through the acquisition of material things. And I used to think that I would. By material things, I mean buying things like Louis Vuitton bags, watches, cashmere, Loro Piana, whatever it is. It doesn't bring me any happiness. They're just not, they're nice things to have, but that used to be like what I would dream about buying all of this stuff. But now I can really tell you that my happiness from money comes from the freedom that money gives me. Of having control of my life, not having to answer to anyone, being able to kind of do whatever I want. So on that note as well, basically, you need to also put off purchases, particularly of things that are to show off to people that you are successful, and put them off for as long as possible. You know, the Rolex can wait. Don't buy it when you get your first like 50 grand or 100 grand. Have that money working for you and making more money. Don't upgrade your car. One of the biggest life hacks that you would ever be able to do, you need to be quite disciplined to do it. In fact, you need to be very disciplined to do it. You have to fight temptation of, if as your income increases, if you can maintain the same quality of life you had when you weren't making money, you will become rich very much faster, like exponentially faster than the person who increases their earnings. So as they go to 20k per month, but then their quality of life increases to 20k per month, then they're doing 50k per month, but they're spending 50k per month. So it doesn't matter how much you're actually earning. If your expenses, and it's very easy for them to increase, by the way, like you would honestly be surprised. If you can consciously control your outgoings and not waste money on liabilities, and be acquiring as many assets as possible, that is how you will get rich far quicker. But basically, on the mindset thing, it is about understanding that there's tons of people out there with money. A good book I recommend actually is Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. There's two different types of people. There's people with a fixed mindset, and then there's people with a growth mindset. Make sure that you are in the latter category. And like even like, for example, like there was a guy on my last video who accused me of using a green screen when I was in a villa, and this was like, it's a rented villa. It's not even my villa. It was like $250 a night or something in Bali, and he, for whatever reason, just couldn't comprehend that there's a real villa. And that is a perfect example of a fixed mindset. Realize that there are people out there that are making tons of money, living a really great life, and there's no reason that it can't be you. So the next thing to go on to is running a cash flow business. That's the other thing as well. Sorry, just finally, there are a lot of stupid people with a lot of money, is the other thing that I notice as well as I spend more time in these kind of circles. So, that's just another thing that I always found quite interesting, that when I spent more time around these people, and you realize that all different types of people have found ways to make money. Again, there's no reason that it cannot or should not be you. Okay, so part number 2 is then running a cash flow business. So There are a million different cash flow businesses, and I'm going to keep this purposefully vague because I do think it depends on your own specific skill set. It also depends on timing, on what the best opportunity is. So it could be OnlyFans, it could be automation, it could be some other agency, it could be something in AI, it could be a social media marketing agency. These are all things that I've kind of done personally in order to make more money. And they require very little capital to get started, and they can help you generate upwards of 6 figures per. So yeah, it doesn't really matter what business it is specifically. You just want to be working on something that requires little capital or investment to get started with, in my opinion, and you want something that is going to generate you immediate cash flow. One of the mistakes that I've made twice actually now is running software businesses that require a lot of upfront investment, and the time that I would get. I mean, maybe now I would kind of look at them again, but when I was kind of much earlier on in my career, they required a lot of investment, and the way that I would have made money off of them would be by exiting. So you need to put in maybe 4 to 5 years of work, maybe a little bit less, but maybe even more. And the payout that you'll see is after 4 to 5 years, and it's also not guaranteed, right? Whereas actually, when you're kind of looking to get to the first million, the thing that you want to be doing is having cash flow in a scalable business coming in every single month. And the thing that I suggest you to do is to put all of your working hours into scaling that business and generating more money. Look for opportunities for leverage, but I wouldn't be kind of overcomplicating things and looking to automate things at this stage. You are in the position of exchange your time for money, put in the hours now, and you will reap the rewards later. And that is how you will escape the rat race. By the way, you could also do like freelance as well. Or like a job with like that has a very high paying skill set. I also think there's actually no shame in that. For whatever reason, we have this kind of we glamorize entrepreneurship a lot, and no one really shows the reality of entrepreneurship. And not everyone is cut out to make to run a business as well. I honestly think so. As much as we make out that everyone is, and like, oh, if you follow this course, you're going to be an excellent businessman. A lot of people quite simply haven't got the work ethic of it's like 24/7. And like I also think affiliate is actually a really good option as well, where you can focus purely on the promotion and not need to worry about all of the actual runnings and operations of the business. Again, we glamorize entrepreneurship, but there's some other like fantastic opportunities within affiliate, within crypto, even within gambling as well, that could be looked at as well. And again, I'm just kind of pushing out ideas there because there is not a right or wrong answer. The right answer is to run a cash flow business, but there are tons of different cash flow generating businesses that you could look at starting or going into. So I've ran OnlyFans agencies, I've ran Instagram marketing agencies, and they were like the two best vehicles for me in terms of making money very quickly. Okay, so next up, reducing expenses. So this is quite an important one actually that I think often gets overlooked. So I kind of touched on it already about the one major important thing to do is, as your income is increasing, do not increase your quality of life. Try to maintain your quality of life as much as possible and put off any extravagant purchases. You can also use like location arbitrage. So one other thing that worked really well for me is I was born in London being one of the most expensive cities in the world. And when I was about 22, I moved to Georgia being a country in Eastern Europe. I didn't move for this actual reason. I actually moved because one of my developers was Georgian in our software company. And I just went out there to go and work with him for a month. And 1 month turned into 4 or 5 years. But one of the ways that Georgia actually did serve me really well is it was much, much cheaper than London. So I could get an apartment in Georgia for about $500 per month in the center of the city, whereas you couldn't even get a parking space in London for that. like genuinely you couldn't. And I was able to like live like a king in Georgia. This was about 5 years ago, so it is actually quite a bit more expensive now, but I could live like a king. And I mean, just eating out the whole time, not really worrying about everything. I had a cleaner and like just taking taxis everywhere, and it was about $1,500 per month. So I was living a really, really good quality of life for me at that time, with very, very low expenses. And this gave me a lot of breathing room to be able to actually save money and to deploy money and have. I didn't actually invest at that time, but I wish that I did. But I would invest money back into my own businesses, because we were running quite a big Google Ads campaign, and I would also invest back into hiring more developers. So it did allow me to free up capital. The other major benefit as well, actually, was that I had access to very cheap employees. So we were able to hire people for about $300 per month. So I do think one of the most powerful moves, and you find a lot of billionaires make this move as well, is changing your location. So one of the biggest mistakes that I think you can make is to literally just live in the place that you were born and assume that this is the right place for you. Out of the entire world, what are the chances that this is the best place for you to be living? Quite low. So at the very least, go out and have and travel and have some experiences. And I actually like to have different bases, so I have different locations around the world that serve different goals for me. So this is a concept taken from Nomad Capitalist, to go where you're treated best. So you could have like a business base, you could have a family base, you could have a fun base, you could have a fitness like sports base, and these would all be in different countries that support your goals in those different areas. I've also been looking at applying this to dating. I'm not going to go into this now, but I've been playing around with the concept of basically having multiple wives in different locations around the world. Sorry, I keep pressing the request button. Yeah, of having multiple wives around the world that will kind of look after your different bases and maintain properties for you. But again, we'll go into that in another video. But yeah, this is going to be like particularly powerful for you if you were born in an expensive city somewhere in the US, or if you were born in Europe. You're going to get huge benefits by being in cheaper countries. And now, just simply because of the internet and how connected we are remotely, you can just get, it's so powerful to be earning money in USD in some of these third world countries, and you just have so much capital available to you that you're kind of free to deploy and have that money working for you. So another good habit to go over as well is to every month review your expenses. Does this really deliver value into your life, whatever you're spending money on? Is it really needed? And cut out all of the things that you don't really need. And then another thing that I do now, because I basically travel full time, I live out of 2 suitcases and a bag. I mean, but before I had my apartment, but it basically just taught me that actually a lot of the possessions that I had that were in my apartment, I never even thought about. And because I'm living out of like 2 suitcases, you can only really bring the essentials, the things that really matter. So now every single like month, or every couple of months at least, I will go through and look at my possessions. What do I actually use? Does this deliver value into my life? What utility does it actually have? Or does it have a sentimental value? And if it doesn't fit in, if it's not improving the quality of my life, it's not really worth having. So if it's an item of any value, I'll sell it. I can just get my assistant to sell it. And I can just deploy that capital and have that money working for me. So instead of having like something just kind of sitting there and kind of rotting away, recently I've freed up like hundreds of thousands of dollars in kind of items that I just had sitting around my apartment. And I also sold an apartment, and now just have that money deployed and working for me in the markets, bringing me an income every single month. So yeah, look at your possessions. Do you actually need all of this stuff, or is it? And because the other thing that I kind of learned last year is what you own ends up owning you. So now I'm very conscious of what objects do I actually want to have, what things do I want to bring into my life. because they need care, they need maintenance. You need to kind of worry about them. And again, this is like from some very like high level people, uh, kind of came to a similar conclusion that I did. You know, Pavel Durov was talking about this as well, about just not buying things because it ends up pulling your attention into like you need to maintain that property or maintain the yacht or the car or whatever it is. And it just, yeah, it basically ends up owning you. And so the final point and the kind of the most powerful point here is to have your money working for you. So again, this is like, this whole thing is really just what I wish was taught in school. And you want to start with this like as young as possible. Like you could get so far ahead if you were taught this when you're like 13, 14 years old, and even just from like your first job, you kind of saved up. If you started earning money when you were very young, and by the time you're 18, even if you were earning like 15 or 20K per year, just doing some like little odd jobs on the side, if you could save up like $100,000, maybe if you started working at 12 or 13, if you had $100,000 by the time you're 18, you would be in just such a strong position. So I really wish this stuff was taught younger, and I really do hope that I can change someone's life with this. But anyway, having your money working for you. So understand what this means and do this as early as possible. The reason you want to do this as early as possible is, number one, because of how compound interest actually works. But number two, is so that you can see the actual power of having your money working for you. So again, if I have, even like $1 million invested and it's earning me 40% per year, but just literally by holding Bitcoin, why would I want to go and buy property? But also, why would I want to go and buy a car or clothes? Or, I mean, I do buy clothes, obviously, but I mean, I basically look at it as, if I buy something, it's costing me at least 40% extra because I'm missing out on having that money invested and making me more money. So again, once you've kind of seen this actually playing out and actually in action, you yeah, you will kind of start to think about money a lot differently, that actually, like, do you really need this? Or is it better that you just invest that money and have that money making more money for you? And then when you have the passive income, then you can go and buy these nice to have things, let's say. So at least until you have like your first million working for you, I would cut off all extravagant expenses and stick to necessities. Try to control your impulses and desires and really question, do you really need this? So try to put off all extravagant purchases as much as possible and have your money working for you as much as possible. But you also need to have balance, because if you're working very hard, you do need to kind of see some of the reward. Unless you are super disciplined, far more disciplined than I am, I think that you'll run into burnout because you're sacrificing so much and not really seeing much back. So the way that I would do this is apply an 80-20 rule. So I would work to invest 80% of whatever you earn, and the other 20% you can go absolutely crazy with. Spend on whatever you want. So if you're making $100,000 per month, it means $80,000 per month you would be investing, and you would have that money working for you. We're going to go into investing more in just a minute, but you would have that money deployed and working for you and making more money for you. But the other 20,000 that's left over, that you can spend on lifestyle, you can spend on clothes. If you have enough to buy yourself a fancy watch, go and buy a fancy watch if that's what you want to do. Spend it on living a good life so that it's worth it to work very hard and to keep you motivated in order to keep going. So I've spoken about this before as well, but I like to kind of reinvest into myself with like the best possible tools. So it means the best camera, the best laptops I can find, the things that make my experience of working more enjoyable. So that's always like a good way to look to spend money on yourself. So yeah, the 80-20 rules. The 80-20 rule, sorry. And then finally, just to reiterate, do not let your expenses catch up to your income. So again, this is kind of a really nice formula to make sure that doesn't happen, of you're only allowed to spend 20% of what you actually make. So a few other tips here as well is remove all friction from deploying your money and having your money working for you. So what do I mean by that? The best way to do it is to automate it. So I think for most of you listening, you would be able to open up an IBKR investment account, which is an Interactive Brokers investment account. The reason I'm suggesting that is because they are international. So I actually have one opened under a Georgian tax residency. So if you have a foreign tax residency, you can open up through them, and they do support that as long as you can provide the documentation, of course. But it is available, completely like internationally. If you already have an investment account like Robinhood or whatever else, like that's fine. You can go ahead and use that. If you're in the UK, you probably want to use an ISA, at least for your first 20K per year that you're investing, because it's free of capital gains tax. It's a very good tax benefit if you are a UK tax resident. But however you choose to do it, open up an account and have a way that your money is automatically transferred over into that investment account every day, every week, or every month. However your income comes in, you need to make sure that a portion of that is sent over automatically over to your investment account to be deployed automatically. I personally, and that's if you want to do investing in stocks in the S&P 500. If you want to do it in crypto, then I built out a bot using Binance's API. It's really simple to do. If people are interested, I can also make a video on that, where I invest anywhere from like $1,000 to $10,000 per day, depending on the current sentiment of the market, basically on something like the Fear and Greed Index. I would just automatically buy. So I don't even think about it, and I invest into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, depending on the different risk metrics of each of them. It could be one of them, it could be two, or it could be all three of them. And that has really served me quite well. And then once every week, I would go and just transfer that onto a cold wallet. Now, I don't suggest you to, I'm not in any like meme coins or anything like that. If you do want to be doing things with meme coins, take a percentage of your portfolio, 1-2%, whatever it is, and you can go and gamble on meme coins, and maybe you make a lot of money. But that's not what I'm talking about here. Here, I'm talking about a tried and proven system in order to generate wealth, not how to get lucky on like a dog meme coin. And so set up dollar cost averaging into these different things. And again, about removing all friction, I don't even look at these. I know, unless something major happens, that over the coming years, Bitcoin is going to increase in price, Solana is going to increase in price, and Ethereum is going to increase in price. So I don't need to look at the day-to-day markets or change the investing strategy every week or every month even. It just goes in, and I know that I'm going to make money off it, and I just leave that capital deployed and working for me. The same thing with stocks. It's not that you need to become an investor and be picking out different stocks and so on. Either I would go with like the Magnificent Seven, so like the top 7 tech companies, or you just go for the S&P 500. You don't look at anything, you don't sell anything, you spend no time managing your investment portfolio. You just literally deploy that capital and have it working for you, and you continue with exposure to the market. And this is just done automatically. You don't think about it. There's no friction at all. Money comes into your bank and it automatically gets deployed and keeps working for you. And the reason to do that is so that you don't get kind of sidetracked on becoming a trader, buying and selling things, spending all your time researching different investments. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to generate as much cash as possible, reduce our expenses as much as possible, and have as much money as possible working for us. And I can promise you, if you follow this formula, you will easily become a millionaire if you are just consistent with it. It's worked for me. It's worked for a load of people that I know. And this is kind of it refined down into its most simple steps. Don't get sidetracked on like trying to build out like an overly complicated investment strategy. One of the other biggest pieces of advice that I can give, not just in investing but in everything, is keep it simple. There are very, very few cases where it makes sense to add more complexity, and you can kind of get 80% of the gains doing like 20% of the work and not investing any time. So this is and yeah, literally, if you follow this, everything that I've just said, you will achieve financial freedom, and it just comes down to being a matter of time, depending on how much cash flow you're generating. Once again, it was intentional to be kind of vague on cash flow, because I think it's kind of individual for each person, the best route that they go down. For some of you, it will be OnlyFans. For some of you, it will be social media marketing. For some of you, it will be something completely different, that you have a specific skill set for, that you're able to make money on. So figure out what that is. If you don't know what that is, I suggest you to try a load of different things. I would also suggest you to spend more time learning programming, as I think it's one of the best, not even programming, but just learning how to read code, because you don't even really need to write code anymore because of AI. Understand how to read code will be a massive superpower. Spending a lot more time playing around with AI, again, is going to be a massive superpower over the coming months and definitely over the coming years. And you can look for opportunities there to generate cash flow as well. So yeah, these are the principles to escape the matrix, the rat race, the exchanging your time for money. It's worked for me, and I'm sure if you follow everything that I've said, it can work for you as well. Any questions, leave a comment, and yeah, I hope to see some of you at the top very soon.